Hello, and welcome. And no, by the way, this is not the start of a new series. Trust me when I tell you that if I could capture Switch playthroughs, this would not be the game I would start with. Breath of the Wild, or Tears of the Kingdom, or Super Mario Odyssey, or Super Mario Wonder, or Dragon Quest XI, or any number of the Final Fantasy, Etrian Odyssey, Dragon Quest remakes, remasters. Yeah. This would not be the game I'd start with on the Switch. No. This is basically just a review, and probably a shoddy review in a lot of people's estimation since there is no gameplay footage, just the soundtrack. I mean, again, I have no way of capturing. There are Switch capture cards, but not for the Switch Lite. So yeah, as of now, I have no way of capturing Switch gameplay footage. Not that I wouldn't love doing so if I could. There's so many games I would be doing playthroughs of. But anyways, anybody who knows me, who's been around the channel since I started these videos a couple years ago, knows how much I love the Metroid series. Always have since the spring summer of 1988. Almost immediately after completing the first Zelda game, the same person who recommended I try playing Zelda because of how many games were linear platformers, said something about this game. So right after completing the first quest of the original Zelda, or not this game, but the first Metroid game rather, the first game in this series, I should have said. Anyways, long story short, basically, for all intents and purposes, been a Metroid fan since the beginning. Played all of the 2D games as they came out. Well, except for Part 2, I did kind of play that in its Game Boy original, but like I've said before, because of the Game Boy 2-inch by 2-inch square small screen headaches, I didn't play too much of that one until years later. But Super Metroid, love that game. I mean, how many times have I said that to me that's the third best game of all time, topped only by Final Fantasy VII and Ocarina of Time Zelda game? Fusion was a good game except for the linearity. I'm sorry, but linear Metroid to me is just as much a sticking point as linear Zelda. I mean, there are some good linear Zelda games, Minish Cap, Oracle of Ages, but with Zelda and Metroid alike, if the first games in those series were as linear as some of the later titles would be, or the remake of the first Metroid game is, I wouldn't be a Metroid fan today. If the NES original of the first if the NES original of the first Metroid game was as linear as the Zero Mission remake of it is, I wouldn't even be a Metroid fan today. Yeah. I mean, I could, they're good linear games, don't get me wrong, but if I had to choose, I like to be able to explore, not be bound by linearity and plot progression. That's, like I've said before, in Zelda, that's one of the things I love about Breath of the Wild and now Tears of the Kingdom. Virtually little, very little, if any at all, linearity. But anyways, Metroid Dread came out on the Game Boy Advance in 2002, and then outside of remakes of the first two games, there were no more 2D Metroid games for almost 20 years. Then they announced this game, and oh god, I couldn't wait to play it. The first new 2D Metroid game in so long. It was one of the first games I ever pre-ordered. Got it the day of its release, started playing it. Yeah, all of the comments I've made against it since then. But you see, that's part of the problem and why I realized here I am having all these negative opinions about a game that I've only played once. And the problem with that, I mean, a lot of people probably do that, I don't know, but For me, the problem with that is, how do I know it's not me, the person playing the game, more than it is the game itself? And my mind flashed back to Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest II, and how on some of my earliest videos I used to bash that game just as strongly, until talking to someone on Twitch chats and later his YouTube VOD video uploads of those streams got me remembering that my problem with Dragon Warrior 2 is that I ran from so many random battles that I was so underleveled for the later areas where the difficulty is ramped up anyways. And there you go. Bad memories, a playthrough that was my fault, you know. I'm the one that messed that up. The game it's a good game. I just screwed it up. So yeah, I couldn't help thinking that same thing might not be the case with this game. So a couple days ago I started replaying it again. And so if there's one thing I can learn from this, it's I really gotta stop saying how much I hate games. Keep that to myself from now on. Seems like every time I do Dragon Quest II, Final Fantasy IV, and now this game, I always end up taking back a lot of those comments against the game. Yeah, me and my big fat mouth. Yeah. Anyways, as for this game, well, I'm not going to sit here and say it's an all-time favorite because it's certainly not. I still wouldn't say it's a Super Metroid or even a Metroid 2, but it's better than Fusion, if not just for the fact that it's not so damn linear. And you don't have Adam locking doors behind you, keeping you out of certain areas. In the elevator that only works when it's convenient for the game's plot for that elevator to work. Yeah. I mean, Fusion is a good game if you can get past the linearity of a Metroid game. But, you know. I mean, the soundtrack of this game, granted you ain't hearing much of it, but again, it's no Super Metroid soundtrack, but better than Fusion's was. I mean, I like Fusion, don't get me wrong. Fusion is a good game, it's not. But the soundtrack in that game definitely was nothing stellar, nothing memorable. So yeah, they definitely improved the soundtrack this time around. Bosses, double thumbs up there. Well, at first, I mean, Corpius, the first boss of the game. Of course, there's Kraid, and I'm still wondering how he survived both the first game and Super Metroid. Oh well, video game logic. I mean, look at Ganon and Zelda, or Bowser and Mario. Of course, those are main antagonists, but still, just the idea how many times they get. Yeah, they're back again in the next game. Yeah, video game logic. But anyways, that said, Kraid battle here, 10 out of 10. Especially if you're going by difficulty. I mean, I can probably count on one hand the amount of times I've died against Kraid in Super Metroid. Even on the first few playthroughs as I was getting used to the game. Well, you know, did that on the first, well, you know. Even those first couple playthroughs, Kraid was rather easy. Here, good God, I lost count of how many times. Yeah. So yeah, the Kraid battle is definitely 5-star. So are some of the other original bosses. Note I said original bosses. Well, original meaning new, unique. I mean, I forget the names without looking them up, but you have the aquatic boss you fight underwater, shooting at the tentacles, and then moving over to the other side of the room, rinse and repeat. And And you have that large fly, mosquito, insect, whatever it's supposed to be, boss that flies around the room shooting at you. So yeah, there are a lot of good bosses here. But then you get to the Emmys. And I still stand very firm on everything I've ever said against that part of the game. Metroid got milk. I mean, you just get into the game. Oh, god damn it, not another Emmy. Ah, shit. Really? And then later in the game, the Chozo Warrior bosses. Same thing. Just get into the game. Usual Metroid game. Oh, not again. Really? Yeah. Metroid got milk. I mean, I'm sorry. They were good first couple times, don't get me wrong. But how many times can we how many times can we reuse the same bosses without showing a lack of creativity and originality? Oh, we can't think of anything new, so we'll just here, have another Chozo Warrior boss. Have another one. Oh yeah, have another Emmy too, by the way. There you go. There's your new boss. Yeah. Middle fingers. The overall bosses. Well, there's some good ones. And speaking of the Emmys, well, actually, well, like I said, I pretty much stand on anything I've ever said in that regard in previous, anytime I'd ever mentioned this game. Not only are they overmilked, but why can they one-shot kill you? No matter how many heart containers this is in Zelda, although it might as well be, that's another thing. Why do we have energy tank pieces? I smell Zelda ripoff. Yeah, they actually break the energy tanks up into 4 parts, just like a heart piece in a Zelda game. Got Zelda? I mean, yeah. But anyways, no matter how many energy tanks or power-ups or special items you have, Emmy can still kill you in one hit. One middle finger to the developers. And then you get to the underwater segments where you move slow because you don't have the gravity suit. That in and of itself fine, you know, that's been a thing since Super Metroid. But not when you have enemies that can kill you in one shot and can still move at full speed even though you cannot. The other middle finger to the developers. Yeah. You do not, well, they did, so obviously, yeah, but yeah, you do not give the enemies the unfair advantage like that. And don't talk to me about difficulty. Challenge should be fair, not jank like that crap. And yes, I'm well aware of the melee counter. If you time it just right, you can bash but that only buys you, what, maybe a few seconds? The Emmy quickly recovers and is right back on the chase again. And when you're underwater, yeah, that's just a very, very temporary. Yeah. And then on top of that, in later sequences, they can shoot ice beams at you. Your movement is already slow enough. Now they can bring it to a standstill. Really? How many other ways can we make this cheap and superficial? So yeah, the game still strikes out in that department. I'm sorry. Disagree if you will. Your right to your opinion, but my right to disagree with your opinion and say that part of the game still sucks. I will go to my grave believing that. Well, I don't know. That's a little too absolute. Who knows? My opinions on that may change with replays too. I don't know. At this point, anything is possible. But as of making this video, no. And speaking of the Emmys, that pulse cannon that you need to finally get rid of the bastards. Why is it so awkward to aim that? At least for me, I don't know. Maybe it's just a personal thing. Probably is. Other gamers who play the game probably don't have a problem with that. But me, I find that half of the time, by the time I aim it, I'm already dead anyways. Yeah. Such awkward button combinations, awkward controls. Another thing that plagues this game. It's not just the Emmys and the pulse cannon. I mean, shine sparking can be a button masher. Used to be you just run, hit the down button at the right time, and now, yeah, just kind of awkward in the control, and makes me wonder what they were thinking when they programmed it that way. That said, wall jumping and bomb jumping are a lot easier in this game, at least for me. I mean, I know a speedrunner would probably beg to differ, as they have no problems wall jumping in Super Metroid. Me, I can't wall jump. Not in that game. In this game, fine, but anyways, enough of my ranting and raving and sounding like an idiot. Just overall, my opinions on this game have improved drastically. It's now a game that I would rate 0.00000 out of 10 to a 4.5 out of 10. Good, still has its flaws, still has its strikes. One-shot KO Emmys that you have to evade underwater. Middle finger, middle finger, middle finger. The amount of Emmys, the amount of Chozo warrior bosses. The awkward controls at points. Yeah. So yeah, it's no longer, in my opinion, the worst Metroid game in the series. That now becomes fusion, or linearity, or Adam locking doors behind you, including the final item gathering. You got to go out of your way to avoid. Yeah. Screw you. Anyways. Oh, sorry, just listening to the soundtrack. Again, I would say this game, soundtrack-wise, yeah, one of the better ones. I mean, I'd have to think about that before I sat here and just say, yeah. I mean, again, definitely better than Fusion's soundtrack. I mean, again, don't get me wrong, Fusion is a good game. It's just, like this game, there are a lot of ways it could have been better. It's definitely no Super Metroid. And I think that about does it. Metroid Dread. No longer Metroid Dread Full. Anyways, see you next time for more Metroid 2, Game Boy Original, Oracle of Ages, or Dragon Quest 7, whichever my next video I upload after this one is. As always, if you disagree, that's fine. You're right to your opinion. No, like I was saying, there is no game that everybody is going to like. If you like this game more than I, that's fine. You're right to your opinion. The only thing I ask is that you keep the comments civil. No juvenile name calling and insulting. If you're going to do that, I'll block you. I will not stand for that juvenile attitude over video game opinions. Bad enough you have metal elitists that will insult you if you like Rat more than Slayer. Grow up and act your age, not your ridiculously low IQ, I keep telling those people. Just because somebody doesn't like your game or your music as much as you do, big frickin' deal. Wham, wham, wham. Anyways, see ya, and thanks for watching. Bye.